The fallacy of S&P 500 overvaluation. Man, this is an incredible article. I almost didn't catch it. Oh man, this is fantastic. I love it. Now that doesn't mean there is a fallacy that the S&P 500 is overvalued. Let's just dive in. This is freaking fan. I don't even know who's the author here. Joe Sweeney, old Joe there. Let's see who old Joe is. What's his deal? All right, let me go to old Joe. He's a founding partner of Sweeney and Michael, a California RIA, has been with the team since 2010. All right, so let's read what old Joe has to say via Advisor Perspectives. According to PE ratio, price earnings ratio, 30 times, the S&P 500 is valued at 80% more than higher than its long-term average. All right. 80% more than its long-term average is the S&P 500 valued right now, according to PE ratio. The historical averages are irrelevant, says Joe Sweeney. Imagine getting a copy of Sports Illustrated and reading this. NBA scoring is a massive bubble on the verge of a 1940s type recession. For the last several years, NBA scoring has exceeded its long-term ranges at an unsustainable pace. Seasons 2018 through 2020 saw scoring over 223 points a game combined. Since 1946, the long-term average score of an NBA game is 205 points, so we're due for a drop. And this guy says, I'm predicting a major scoring crash. A total of 56 points per game, reduction to 167, which happens to be the average from the 1940s, as a form of mean reversion. All right, well, that's, I get what you're saying, that's kind of silly, but I get it. You know, it's interesting, too, just going back to the NBA, the ratings have just gone kaput. I mean, there's no ratings for the NBA anymore. It's interesting. So scoring has gone up, ratings have gone down. You can make a causation that is because the more they score, the less people like to watch. Obviously, we know why, because they're a left-wing, pro-China, Black Lives Matter, fascist take on things. That's why people are tuning out. But it's funny because scoring has gone up. We went when Liam and I went the other day to go see minor league NBA. It was freaking fun. I loved it. He loved it. We had a great time. It's fun watching basketball. I can't wait to go see Tech this year, Georgia Tech. Shooting threes from all over the place. They got 7'2" guy just shooting threes. I'm like, this. We bring back the old freaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with a sky hook. You know, bring back the Bill Russells, man. I like the center, the inside-outside stuff, like Hakeem Olajuwon. All right. The basketball game has changed dramatically over this past 7 years, with dozens of pro scoring rules along the way. The invention of the shot clock, a three-point line, freedom of movement are just a few. Ignoring those rules, those rule changes to estimate scoring averages would be insane. Oh, by the way, I guarantee someone's going to say, "Stop talking about sports." Probably one of my most famous videos is, these states don't tax your pensions and Social Security. I talk about Walter Payton. People stop talking about Walter Payton and football. And I get so many negative comments on that. You just like to hear yourself talk. So cheers to you, negative Nellies. It actually cracks me up, man. I love it. All right. But here's what's interesting. Why do we let stock market strategists get away with predicting S&P market meltdowns based on a 95-year valuation averages? Not only do market environments change, but also does the composition of the index itself. The current composition of the S&P 500 is over 11 sectors. But we forget it wasn't always that way. Over time, the index composition has transformed and skewed in a way from low value towards high value businesses. Let's review. In 1926, the S&P Corp developed a composite index representing just 90 stocks, 50 industrials, 20 railroads, and 20 utilities. Most financial sites still use 1926 as a starting point, which I do. Despite lacking 7 sectors and 410 stocks. That is 100% true, man. That's amazing. In 1926, the S&P, I knew it only had 90 stocks. I didn't realize it was so narrow there. 50 industrials, 20 rails, and 20 utilities. In 1957, the S&P 500 is born. It consists of only 3 sectors made up of 425 industrials, 25 railroads, and 50 utilities. I wonder if they're just, throwing industrials as kind of like all-encompassing. If you're not a railroad or a utility, maybe you're just throwing as an industrial. Then 1976, the committee adds the financial sector. So are you telling me there's no financial stocks in here in the 425 industrials? That's interesting. And 40 stocks to go with it. All right. In 2001, they divide the S&P into 10 sectors, including tech. What do you do when the world is waking up to indexes? Each month, tech is getting bigger than before, and tech isn't a sector, said the S&P chairman at the time. During the first 50 years, from 1926 to 1976, the S&P was comprised of only industrials, railroads, and utilities. These businesses often have tremendous infrastructure and inventory costs, low margins, and appropriately low valuations. I completely agree with that. Financials get involved in the late 70s with also the usual low valuations. A few computer companies like Apple, and Microsoft snuck in the 80s, but we didn't get full tech sector until the early 2000s. The index basically left the shore as a canoe in the 20s and was rebuilt into a speedboat over the past 20 years. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's interesting to me. But and now we only got 14. Look at that. 14% of the S&P is weighted in the industrials, utilities, railroads, where 92% was all the way up until 1976. My inclination is some of these companies that are in here were just defaulted to industrials. That's what I'm expecting. How can you compare today's S&P 500 index dominated by high margin, global tech, communication, and healthcare brands to an index which almost exclusively industrial stocks for the past 5 decades? Yeah, I got to do some research on that. We'll see. I'll leave that to academics, but today's stock market isn't the same as your grandpa's. So that's it's not your grandpa's stock market. That always concerns me deeply. Do we got any comments? I don't see any comments. I hope we got some comments on here. Let's see, because I tell you, man, no comments. Let's add a comment. I'm wondering if I don't think he wrote it here. I think he wrote this for Bloomberg. Actually, and they just well, I guess not. All right. I guess he did write it here. So let's see if we can't comment and say, could it be that pre-1976, pretty much everything was labeled as industrial, to include financial sector? Put that as a comment there. So anyway, I don't know. We'll have to do some research. I'm not going to do it on this video, but that's interesting. So I'd like to hear what you guys think. Maybe y'all can do the research and let us know about that, because at the end of the day, I think there's some validity to what he's saying. But if the big banks were thrown in there as part of the industrials, just because by default that's what they did, then this article is lacking. But if not, it's very interesting. All right, love your thoughts. We'll see ya.